The conference room at Hartley Associates smelled like leather and old money, the kind of place where family fortunes were divided and dynasties destroyed. I sat across from my father, briefcase at my side, watching him squirm in his Italian suit, the one he bought last week with money that should have been mine. Your stepbrother needs it more, he said, sliding the transfer documents across the mahogany table. Tyler's medical school won't pay for itself. You understand, Natalie. You always were the practical one. I smiled the kind of smile I perfected during 3 years at Columbia Law. Sharp enough to draw blood, sweet enough to deny intent. Of course, Dad. I understand perfectly. He'd relaxed, mistaking my calm for compliance. Behind him, my stepmother Margaret clutched her Hermes bag, trying to hide her smirk. Tyler, the golden stepson, didn't even bother showing up. Why would he? The money was already in his account, transferred 2 days after my mother's will was read. $150,000. The sum total of my mother's life insurance, her savings, her everything, meant for me, her only child. The daughter who'd held her hand through chemo, who'd slept in hospital chairs, who'd promised her I'd use it to pay off my law school loans and start fresh. I need you to sign here, Dad continued, pointing to a line on the document. Just confirming you received notice of the transfer. Margaret's lawyer drew it up. Margaret's lawyer. Not our family lawyer who'd known Mom since college. Not even a neutral third party. Margaret's lawyer. I pulled out my Mont Blanc pen, a graduation gift from Mom, inscribed with "Justice is truth in action." She'd been so proud when I passed the bar. Dad hadn't attended the ceremony. Before I sign, I said, uncapping the pen slowly, I have a few questions. Dad sighed. Natalie, don't make this difficult. You have a good job now. Tyler's just starting out. A good job, I repeated. Yes, I do. Senior associate at Walker, Brennan & King, Estate Law Division. Something flickered in Margaret's eyes. Dad remained oblivious. Then you understand why this makes sense, he said. You're established. Tyler needs to explain why he's been depositing checks from Mom's account for the past 6 months. Silence. I opened my briefcase, pulling out a manila folder thick with bank statements, medical records, and legal documents. 3 months of investigation compiled between billable hours and sleepless nights. That's impossible, Margaret said, her voice pitched too high. Ellen's accounts were frozen after her death. Her checking account was frozen, I corrected. But not the investment account she opened in 2018. The one she never told Dad about. The one that required 2 signatures for withdrawal, hers and mine. I spread the statements across the table. Each one showed the same thing. Monthly withdrawals of $5,000 transferred to an account in Tyler's name. The signatures were clumsy forgeries of my mother's handwriting, but good enough to fool a busy bank teller. 6 months of withdrawals, I continued. $30,000. Starting, coincidentally, the week Mom entered hospice and became too weak to monitor her accounts. Dad's face went white. You're lying. Am I? I pulled out another document. This is the power of attorney Mom signed. Look at the date, 2 days before she went into hospice. Look at the witness signature. Margaret's signature stared back at us. That was for medical decisions, Margaret stammered. No, that was a general power of attorney. Very comprehensive, very illegal, considering Mom was on morphine and barely conscious when it was supposedly signed. I turned to the next page. Here's her medical chart from that day. Note the attending physician's comment. Patient experiencing severe confusion, unable to recognize family members. The room felt smaller suddenly. Dad looked between me and Margaret like he was seeing both of us for the first time. But the real masterpiece, I said, pulling out the final document, is this trust amendment, dated 1 week before Mom died, transferring her life insurance beneficiary from me to Tyler. Witnessed by, let me check, Margaret's sister and brother-in-law. We were trying to protect the family assets, Margaret said desperately, for everyone's benefit. By stealing from a dying woman? You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I stood gathering my documents. You saw Mom dying and thought you found an easy mark. A confused cancer patient with assets and a daughter too busy with law school to notice. Except you forgot something. What? Margaret whispered. You forgot that the daughter you were stealing from was about to become a lawyer. Specifically, an estate lawyer. More specifically, an estate lawyer who spent her summer internship at the district attorney's office. I pulled out my phone, showing them the contact screen. Ada Jennifer Chen, my former supervisor, now a friend, currently heading the Elder Abuse Division. One call, I said. That's all it takes. Forgery, elder abuse, fraud. Tyler could kiss medical school goodbye. Margaret, I doubt federal prison has a Hermes boutique. Dad finally found his voice. Natalie, wait. We can work this out. As a family. Family? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Mom was family. She died alone in that hospice room while you were at Tyler's college graduation. She was family when she worked 2 jobs to pay for my undergrad because you said college was a waste for girls. She was family when she secretly saved every penny so I could go to law school without your permission. I looked at Margaret. You want to know what Mom said about you? Nothing. Even dying, even drugged, she was too classy to badmouth the woman who stole her husband. But she did say one thing. She made me promise to use her money to become the kind of lawyer who protects people like her. The vulnerable. The dying. The ones whose families circle like vultures. So what do you want? Dad asked, deflated. Everything. Every penny stolen, plus interest. The full $150,000 life insurance returned to me, and Tyler pays back the $30,000 he stole or I file charges. That's $180,000. Margaret shrieked. Plus interest makes it $186,500. I'll take a certified check. We don't have that kind of money, Dad said. I smiled again, that sharp lawyer smile. Sell the boat. Sell Margaret's jewelry. Take out a loan against the house. I don't care how you get it. You have 72 hours. Or what? Or I don't just file criminal charges. I go after you civilly. Pain and suffering for watching you rob my dying mother. Punitive damages for the forgery. Legal fees. By the time I'm done, Tyler won't need to worry about medical school. He'll be working 3 jobs just to help you pay rent. I packed up my briefcase, leaving one document on the table. That's a draft of the criminal complaint. Read it. Think about Tyler's future. Think about federal prison. Then get me my money. At the door, I turned back. Oh, and Dad? Next time you want a seal from your daughter, maybe check what kind of law she practices first. The parking lot was empty when I reached my car. I sat there for a moment, hands shaking slightly. Mom's photo smiled at me from the dashboard, the one from her last good day, before the cancer stole her strength but never her spirit. I did it, Mom, I whispered. Just like you taught me. Justice is truth in action. 48 hours later, the check arrived by courier. The full amount, plus a letter from Margaret's lawyer confirming Tyler would withdraw from medical school for personal reasons. I deposited it that afternoon and immediately wrote a check to the hospice that had cared for Mom. The rest would go exactly where she'd wanted, paying off my loans and starting my home practice. 6 months later, the law office of Natalie Chen opened in a small building downtown. I specialized in elder law and estate protection, offering sliding scale fees for families watching loved ones fade. My first client was an elderly woman whose son was trying to transfer her assets while she underwent dementia treatment. We stopped him, just like Mom would have wanted. Dad called once after the practice opened, left a voicemail about forgiveness, about moving forward, about Tyler struggling to find his path now that medical school was off the table. I deleted it without listening to the end. Some bridges, once burned by betrayal, aren't worth rebuilding. Margaret sends Christmas cards every year, generic things signed the Williams family, as if I were some distant relative to be remembered annually. I returned them unopened, marked no such person at this address. Because the girl who would have accepted that theft, who would have signed those papers to keep the peace, she died with her mother in that hospice room. What rose from her ashes was something harder, sharper, a guardian of the vulnerable, a voice for the voiceless, a daughter who kept her promise. Last week, I won a case against a family who'd manipulated their grandfather into changing his will during his final days. The grandson had been promised everything, only to watch it stolen by relatives who thought he was too young to fight back. After the verdict, he asked how I'd known exactly where to look for evidence. Experience, I told him. Sometimes the best lawyers are forged in the fires of personal injustice. We know where thieves hide because we've been robbed. We know how to fight because we've had to. He nodded, understanding filling his eyes. Another lawyer born from betrayal, perhaps. Another guardian created by greed. That night, I placed fresh flowers on Mom's grave. White roses, her favorites. The headstone read, Ellen Chen, beloved mother, fierce protector, eternal inspiration. The practice is thriving, I told her. 53 families protected so far. 53 elders whose final wishes were honored, whose children weren't robbed, whose legacies remained intact. The wind rustled through the cemetery trees, and for a moment, I could almost hear her voice. That's my girl. Justice is truth in action. I smiled, not the sharp lawyer smile, but the soft one I saved for her memory. Dad had been wrong about Tyler needing the money more. What Tyler needed was a lesson in consequences. What I needed was the chance to become the mom always knew I could be, not just a lawyer, but a protector. Not just her daughter, but her legacy. The money had been important, yes. But the real inheritance Mom left me wasn't in any bank account. It was in a promise extracted from a dying woman to her daughter. Use your pain to prevent others' suffering. Use your knowledge to shield the vulnerable. Use your voice for those who can no longer speak. Every case I take, every elder I protect, every family fortune I preserve from vultures. It's all interest on that inheritance, compounded daily by justice served. Dad thought he was stealing $150,000. He had no idea he was creating something priceless. A lawyer who knew exactly how far family could fall, and exactly how high justice could rise from the ashes of betrayal.